I paid their rent when they were too embarrassed to admit they were drowning in bills. Month after month, without delay, without excuses, without conditions. $500 transferred automatically, like a silent promise I never broke, even when they broke me. I never asked for receipts. I never asked for gratitude. I never asked for a seat at their table. I only asked, silently, to belong. When Max was born, I held him in my arms and promised him a life better than mine. I had already learned what it meant to struggle, to count coins, to stretch meals, to lie awake at night worrying about tomorrow. When his father died, that promise became sacred. I worked longer hours, skipped vacations, wore old clothes so he could have new ones. I taught myself to smile through exhaustion because I believed motherhood meant sacrifice without limits. So when Max grew up and married Lena, my heart expanded instead of closing. I didn't see her as competition. I saw her as another child I could love. I told her, honestly, you don't have to worry. I'm here. And I was. When they couldn't afford rent, I stepped in. When their fridge was empty, I filled it. When their apartment felt bare, I bought furniture. Sofas, tables, lamps, things I myself had lived without for years. Sometimes I'd visit and see them laughing on the sofa I paid for, eating food I bought, living comfortably in a space I financed. And instead of resentment, I felt relief. At least they're okay, I told myself. That's what matters. I didn't realize I was slowly training them to see my generosity as obligation. When Max told me they were engaged, I cried harder than I had in years. I imagined standing beside him, fixing his collar, whispering a prayer for his future. I imagined photos, me smiling proudly, finally visible, finally included. I bought a dress carefully, pale pink, soft, respectful. $200 felt like a lot, but I told myself it was worth it. I even practiced my smile in the mirror, wondering if my wrinkles showed too much, if I looked old. I wanted to look like a mother who mattered. I saved $1,000 as a wedding gift. I didn't tell them. I wanted it to be a surprise. I cleaned my house obsessively, imagining they might come over after the ceremony, laughing, sharing stories, letting me feel like part of their joy. I called my sister in Chicago and spoke excitedly about my son's wedding, about how fast time flies, about how proud I was. I was building a moment in my heart that never existed. The day everything shattered wasn't dramatic. No shouting, no argument, just a phone call. I dialed Max's number to ask about dates, logistics, small things a mother should know. Before he could answer, Lena spoke. She looked at me directly, smiled, calm, confident. "Oh, we already got married yesterday. We only invited special people." The words didn't register immediately. My mind refused to process them. Special people. I stood there frozen, holding the phone, my chest tightening as realization crept in. I wasn't special. Not after 3 years of rent. Not after groceries, not after furniture, not after wedding money. Max avoided my eyes. Lena sat comfortably on the sofa I bought, relaxed, unbothered. My dress hung untouched in the closet. My gift money sat uselessly in an envelope. My heart collapsed quietly, without anyone noticing. Later that night, curiosity, or perhaps self-punishment, pushed me to open social media. There they were, smiling, laughing, celebrating. Her parents, her siblings, friends raising champagne glasses, and Lena in a white dress I helped finance. I stared at those photos until my vision blurred. I wasn't confused. I wasn't mistaken. I was erased. 7 days after my humiliation, my phone rang. Lena. Her voice was different now. No confidence, no smile. "The rent is overdue," she said. "The landlord is threatening to evict us. You forgot to send the money." Forgot. as if my life revolved around remembering their needs. I thought of every time I skipped something for myself, every time I reassured them it was no problem, every time I believed love meant endurance. Then I spoke the words that changed everything. I only help special people. Silence. For the first time, she was afraid. That night, I didn't cry like a victim. I cried like a woman waking up. I counted every dollar, every sacrifice, every lie I told myself. And when I woke up the next morning, I understood something terrifying and freeing. I had been buying love from people who never planned to give it. The morning after that phone call, I woke up with swollen eyes, but a strangely clear mind. For the first time in years, my first thought wasn't, did Max eat or did Lena need anything? It was a quiet, almost frightening realization. I mattered. I sat at the kitchen table where I had planned birthdays, counted money for their rent, and cried silently when they ignored me. This time, I spread out my bank statements instead of tissues. I wanted facts. Numbers don't lie the way people do. Rent, $500 a month for 3 years, $18,000. Groceries and household supplies, $7,200. Furniture, $1,200. Car loan, $2,500. Medical emergencies, $800. Gifts, holidays, anniversaries, $3,000. $33,400. My hands trembled, not from weakness, but from rage. That money was supposed to be my safety, my dignity, my peace. Instead, it had become a leash around my neck. By noon, my phone started vibrating like a trapped insect. Max. Lena. Max again. Normally, I would have answered immediately, my heart racing, hoping for remorse. Instead, I watched the screen light up and go dark. A message came through. "Mom, please answer. We need to talk." I deleted it. For the first time in months, I put on my coat, not to run errands for them, but to breathe. At the bank, Mr. Klein recognized me instantly. He had watched my account shrink month after month. "I need to cancel all automatic transfers," I said. He looked genuinely shocked. "Are you sure, Mrs. Richter?" "Yes," I replied, "and I want my accounts fully protected. No one else is authorized." As he processed the request, my phone buzzed relentlessly. It was almost comical how quickly they sensed danger, like animals when the food source disappears. When I left the bank, I felt lighter than I had in years. But peace never comes without resistance. When I returned home, 3 unfamiliar cars were parked outside. My stomach dropped. They had keys I had given them out of trust, out of hope. I opened the door and stepped into my own house, only to feel like a stranger. Max sat on my sofa, head in his hands. Lena paced the room, furious, and a man I didn't know was going through my papers at the dining table. My papers. "What is going on?" I asked. Lena rushed toward me. "Thank God you're here. This is Mr. Fisher, a lawyer. We're worried about you." Worried? The word tasted poisonous. Max looked up, eyes filled not with concern, but fear. "The bank told us you canceled everything," he said. "Why would you do that?" The lawyer stepped forward with a plastic smile. "Mrs. Richter, your children are concerned about your mental well-being." And suddenly, everything made sense. They weren't there to talk. They were there to take control. Power of attorney, guardianship, legal language wrapped in fake concern. Lena took my hand like a nurse soothing a patient. "At your age, confusion happens," she whispered. Confusion. That was the moment something inside me hardened permanently. "I am not confused," I said. "You are desperate." The lawyer tried again. "Your children have rights." "Get out," I interrupted. all of you." Lena exploded. "We built our lives around your support." "Exactly," I replied. "That was your mistake." Max's voice cracked. "Mom, you'll end up alone." I looked at him, the man who once called me his hero. "I already was alone," I said quietly. "Now I'm just free." As they gathered their things, Lena turned cold. "Everything you have will be ours one day anyway," she snapped. "We're just speeding it up." There it was. I wasn't a mother to them. I was a delayed inheritance. I closed the door behind them and leaned against it, shaking, not from fear, but from release. The next morning, I met with my own lawyer. "Elder financial abuse," he said bluntly. "What they did was illegal." We documented everything: transfers, messages, threats. Locks were changed, cameras installed, a new will drafted. For the first time in decades, I was protected. They thought fear would bring me back. Loneliness would break me. Guilt would silence me. They were wrong. Because the most dangerous moment for people who exploit you is the moment you realize you don't need them anymore. I didn't hear from Max or Lena for 3 days after they stormed out of my house. Those 3 days were quieter than anything I had known in years, and also louder in ways I hadn't expected. The silence gave my thoughts room to breathe. For decades, my life had been shaped around anticipation, waiting for a call, waiting for appreciation, waiting for proof that I mattered. Now, with no one demanding anything from me, I was forced to face a difficult truth. I had been living for everyone except myself. 2 weeks later, we were in court. Max sat on one side of the room with Lena, holding her hand like a shield. She wore a soft sweater and a worried expression, perfect for an audience. I sat on the other side, alone. Not abandoned, not weak, alone by choice. The judge listened patiently as their lawyers spoke about concern, instability, confusion. He painted me as a fragile old woman who didn't understand her own finances. Then it was my turn. Mr. Weber stood and presented 3 years of bank statements, neatly organized. Every transfer, every expense, every pattern of dependency. He showed the court how my finances had been stable for decades until my son married and my savings began to vanish. He showed messages where Lena asked for money, voicemails filled with pressure, the unauthorized entry into my home. The judge's expression changed. The judge leaned forward and looked directly at Max. "Mr. Richter," he said, "can you explain why you believed your mother was incompetent only after she stopped giving you money?" The silence was devastating. Max opened his mouth, closed it, looked at Lena. No answer came. The petition was dismissed. Not only dismissed, but noted as a potential case of elder financial abuse. The judge warned them clearly. Any further attempts to control Mrs. Richter's finances may result in criminal charges. Lena's face went pale. Max didn't look at me once. Outside the courthouse, Max finally approached me. "Mom," he said quietly, "we didn't want it to go this far." I looked at him, really looked at him, for the first time in years. "You brought a lawyer into my home," I said calmly. "You tried to take my mind, my money, and my dignity." Lena interrupted sharply. "So that's it? You're just cutting us off forever?" I answered without hesitation. "Yes." In the months that followed, something remarkable happened. I began to live. I traveled, nothing extravagant, just places I'd always postponed. I joined a book club. I took long walks without checking my phone. I slept better. I laughed more. The fear that once controlled me, the fear of being unloved, slowly faded. One evening, months later, a message appeared on my phone. "Mom, we're struggling. We could really use your help." I stared at the screen for a long moment. Then I deleted it. Not out of cruelty, out of self-respect. I paid their rent. I fed their dreams. I funded their wedding. Yet I wasn't special enough to attend it. But here's the truth they never understood. I was never asking to be special. I was asking to be treated like a mother. And when they failed to do that, I finally learned to be something else, a woman who chose herself. Love that demands self-destruction is not love. Family that sees you as a resource is not family. And walking away is not abandonment. It is survival.